So now we're going to talk about using the back of the drum. Using your hand on the back of the drum to change the pitch. Welcome to Bodhran Basics. I'm Matt DeBlas, and if you've been following along kind of in order, we've gone through right hand techniques, some basic patterns for reels and jigs, the building blocks of our Irish music repertoire, and now we're going to start adding a little bit of the tone bending and changing of pitch in the drum. So if the basic right hand patterns are your cake, now we're going to talk about the icing. One of the things that makes the bodhran different from other drums is that most drums, they're pitched by size, and the size of the drum determines its pitch, and when you hit the drum, that's the sound it makes. You can hit it near the edge or near the center to get different tones out of it, but it doesn't really change pitch, whereas bodhran allows you to bend the pitch of the drum by varying both the area of the drum and the tension that you put on the head. Not a lot of other percussion instruments let you do that. There are a few. So one of the things we're going to talk about is, first we're going to talk about looking at, this is kind of a basic frame drum, how there are different parts of the head that make different sounds, which I mentioned every drum can do. First is, dead center on the drum is probably your least active sound area. It's a really flat kind of dead sound. As you move a little off center, you get your bass tone, and you get a more of a higher pitch clicky tone near the edge. So you've got two really good tone zones, that off center tone and the edge tone. The bodhran is no different, but you can use your hand to change that area. So with the head fully open, grab a stick here, you've got that center space, the off center space, and the edge zone. But as you move your hand, that pitch zone changes. And the sound in relation to where you're playing, in relation to where your hand is also going to change. So you've got a lot to experiment with, not only your hand placement, but where you strike the drum. The first thing we're going to try, I want you to make kind of a C shape out of your hand, like you're trying to hold a bit of water in your hand. You're going to take the pinky side edge of your hand, your left hand if you're right-handed, or your right hand if you're left-handed, so your non-dominant hand, and push that against the drum shell. And move it around a little. Try pushing a little lighter, a little harder. And I want you to experiment with that a little bit and play some of your basic down up rhythms. Play some of your jig or reel patterns and just play around with those sounds for a little while. Give yourself a little bit of time and experiment a bit. Right? So that's great, right? Now, one of the things you'll notice is, one, you might have a bit of a swishy sound as you move your hand around, which isn't terrible, especially when you're playing something kind of busy, but it can be a little bit distracting if you're trying to be precise. Also, it's probably a little hard to get back to the exact spot that you were just in, right? You can kind of gauge it around, but it's hard to be really precise about being in the exact same tone and the exact same pattern from beat to beat if you're really playing up to speed. And the way that I work around both of those problems is something that I refer to as a hinge technique. Now, in a lot of contemporary bowling, they play what they call top end, where the tipper is played near the top and you move your hand up from the bottom. In the traditional style, which is mostly what I play, you're playing your tipper near the bottom, you're striking down here, and you're mostly bending your pitch from the top down. And we're going to talk about, for now, working from the top down, which is what really works well for this technique. So you're going to make that same C shape that you made with your hand before. You're also going to kind of keep it a little bit rigid through your thumb edge here. You're going to make overall a fairly tight thing. Like you're trying to cup a little bit of water in one hand. You're going to take the back edge of your thumb and rest it against the head near the top edge. So it's going to touch. You're not going to have a wide open sound, but you're going to have a really open, boomy bass sound. And that, again, is just the edge of your thumb right here touching on the thing. And you can really see it here with a clear head as I push my hand against it. So that's your bass tone. Now to get the second tone, you've got your open bass tone. To get your high tone, you're going to roll, keeping the contact of where your thumb is. You're going to roll your hand down so that pinky edge rests against the head, which is going to reduce your surface area of your striking surface and your resonant surface and give you this sound. So you've got two fairly distinct tones out of it. And for the first exercise, we're going to start experimenting with 4 beats at a time: low, 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 high, 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 high. And that open tone will be your low tone. The closed position will be your high. So. So you'll notice by doing this, you can get a consistent tone as you go back and forth between those two major different tones, and you don't have that swishy sound moving back and forth. So you've got. Now, that same four beat rhythm, start with it in the closed high position. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And on the first beat of every group of 4, rock your hand up a little bit to the open position. You don't have to lift all the way up to here, just have to, almost as if you're kind of opening a door a little bit to let a little bit of sound out. So. And now if you couple that with your accent, you're doing that. So. And that is a pretty great reel pattern. Not only does it give you a little variation in tone, but by combining the accent with the low beat on the first beat of each grouping, you really add that emphasis, that boom, 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 butta butta, butta butta, butta butta, butta butta, that 4 on the floor sound to it, which not only helps build the groove and give a little more interesting texture to the rhythm, it helps the dancers, if you've got dancers, and the other players lock into the rhythm and really find where the 1 is. And that's vitally important for a rhythm player in most types of music like this, and Irish music is a very dance-based music, even when it's not played for dancers, is having a distinctive beat on the 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and that. Now that same type of technique, you can use that with your jig rhythm once you've got the hang of that. So you've got your. And you think about your six beat pattern there. Or you can do it in groups of 3. But this works really well with that other jig pattern we taught earlier, where the down, down, up, down, up, down, down, up, down, up. Where you've got 2 accented syllables with that space between them. Down, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If you add that open tone, that variation of tone, use the open tone for those first two accented beats, then the closed tone for the second grouping of three. One, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 3, 4, 5, 6. Slow it down. 1, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 3, 4, 5, 6. And play it up to speed. And that gives it that kind of not quite you'd call a rubato where the beat stretches, but a kind of a rolling pattern, which really kind of drives the jig along. And that is a really great fundamental beat pattern to use on your jigs. And of course you can vary it, mix it up with some unaccented and different tones. So once you get the hang of those basic patterns that so your real pattern and the jig pattern, you can experiment more with adding a little bit more variety and using those other effects, especially as you come to the turnarounds and different ends of phrases. So you can do, say, a jig. But as always, remember these the special effects and the accents and the those different varieties of expression should all be secondary to the groove. Don't overuse your special effects. Don't overuse your pitch bending. Really focus on the groove, and then add those in later to emphasize things. Not as don't get too busy when you're building a beat. Otherwise, it gets cluttered, and the music is already melody-wise fairly busy as it is. So leave some space for the music to work through.